In today's video, I'll be revealing 7 reasons why modern faces are shrinking and what this means for your health and well-being. Hi, I'm Dr. Steven Park, board certified in both ENT and sleep medicine, blogger, speaker, podcaster, and author of the Amazon best-selling book, Sleep Interrupted. But before I get into what's causing our faces to shrink, I just wanted to ask you to support my channel by liking the thumbs up button below, as well as to subscribe to this channel. This will help me to get my message of the importance of breathing and sleep out to as many people as possible. Also, I want to emphasize that this video is for educational and informational purposes only, and you should talk with your doctor before making any changes to your healthcare regimen. Now, when you saw this title for this video, you're probably thinking, is my face really shrinking? To prove to you that this is happening to most modern people, look up some classic movie stars or celebrities from the 1930s to 50s. Now compare against current celebrities, especially in their 20s and 30s. Compare them side by side. Notice that modern faces are much more rounded and triangular, and the face is longer. For example, here's Greta Garbo on the left and Jessica Alba on the right. And here's a more recent classic male celebrity, Christopher Reeve and Adam Driver. Notice how the modern jaws are much more narrow and the face is longer. Whenever I give talks on this topic, I always ask the audience, what will humans look like in 10,000 years? Yeah, that's the alien from Star Trek. Now that I've convinced you that this may be happening, your next question may be, but why is it happening? I could write a 1,000-page book about this, but let me summarize my findings with the following 7 items. Number 1 is in what and how we eat our food over time. Thousands of years ago, as we changed from hunter-gatherers to agriculture and farming, our diets changed dramatically. Over time, our food became softer and softer. Anthropologist Robert Corricini found that communities in rural Kentucky who ate softer diets had higher rates of crooked teeth compared to a similar town that ate harder foods. Also, we changed how we cooked and prepared our foods. B. Wilson, in her book Consider the Fork, describes another anthropologist, Dr. C. Loring Brace, who studied skulls in England from hundreds of years ago, and found that once the well-off aristocrats and royalty had access to cutting knives for the dinner table, they were the first to develop the modern overbite, which is considered normal now. The peasants developed overbites later. The same was found in old China. Mainly the rich had access to knives and as a result developed overbites. Some of the peasants had edge-to-edge bites even into the early 20th century. This reminds me of a story that one of my OR nurses told me about her childhood growing up in one of the small islands in the Caribbean. She said that she and her friends made fun of rich people because they had crooked teeth. We've now come to the point where most young people need their wisdom teeth taken out since the jaws are too small to hold their teeth. In addition, some dentists are still extracting teeth during braces to create a more pleasing appearance. This makes the small mouth even smaller. Number 2 is bottle feeding or other non-nutritive sucking forces. Mothers primarily breastfed their infants until the late 20th century, when it dropped from around 90% to 40%. Bottle feeding infant formula was popularized in the 1950s to 60s and even supported by the medical establishment as being safe and effective. If you look at the tomes of research on the benefits of breast milk through the mother's breast over formula, it's endless. Just to point to a handful of these significant benefits, formula-fed babies had much higher rates of allergies, asthma, eczema, obesity, and diabetes. I include a link to the history of infant feeding and the medical benefits of breastfeeding below. And not too coincidentally, around that time, doctors also promoted smoking as perfectly safe and that it was also good for you too. Non-nutritive sucking forces also include thumb sucking and pacifier use, both of which have been found to lead to crooked teeth. Number 3 is nasal congestion. In my field of otolaryngology or ENT, it's dogma that having a stuffy nose will cause changes to your face. For example, young children with large obstructing adenoids will have the typical adenoid facies appearance with the mouth drooping open and a long face as they grow older. There was also a monkey experiment many decades ago showing that blocking noses in newborn monkeys caused the face not to grow properly. There are also many people with chronic nasal congestion these days, and every one of them have small mouths, a high arch palate, and the deviated nasal septum. So which came first, the nasal congestion or the small jaws? I think it's safe to say that there are a number of external factors that combine to contribute to both small faces and nasal congestion. In my past practice, improving a stuffy nose was one of the most gratifying things I could do as a doctor for a patient. I also stress the importance of proper nasal breathing in general, whether during the daytime or while sleeping. Number 4 is prematurity. We see a large number of premature babies these days, with 32 weeks being the official cutoff for defining prematurity. However, studies have shown that there's a measurable difference in development between weeks 38 and 40. Being born at 36 weeks is not technically being a preemie newborn, but I think it's safe to say that the face has not fully developed yet. So it's not surprising that babies born at less than 32 weeks were found to have a much higher rate of sleep apnea later in life, and this makes sense. Not having enough time to fully develop inside the womb can affect facial growth as well. It's not just the length of time in the womb, but also the health and well-being of the mother as well. And one more thing to note is that many premature babies are much less likely to breastfeed exclusively. The next 3 categories may sound either surprising or even disturbing to you, but please hear me out. All these are backed by scientific studies, which I will reference in the links below. Number 5 is fluoride. You may be surprised by this since fluoride is in our water supply to prevent cavities, right? When I was a resident, I routinely prescribed sodium fluoride to treat an ear condition called otosclerosis. It's when the third middle ear bone that looks like a piston stops vibrating due to slow overgrowth of the bone next to the inner ear bone opening. In severe cases, it needs surgery, but in mild cases, you can give sodium fluoride to prematurely harden the new bone growth to prevent the condition from getting worse. So my question to you is, if you take sodium fluoride by mouth, does it target only your teeth and ears only, or does it go elsewhere? As expected, it goes to the rest of your bones and to the rest of your body, and interestingly, it also goes to your pineal gland, which makes melatonin your sleep hormone. What's important to point out is that what you're ingesting in your water is not sodium fluoride, but sodium fluorosilicic acid, which is a toxic waste product from the phosphate fertilizer industry. Not the fluoride salts that are used in dental products. About 90% of fluoride in the US is actually sodium fluorosilicic acid, not sodium fluoride, which is what was originally used in the Grand Rapids, Michigan experiment in the 1940s, which has been now essentially debunked. I'll place a link to the materials, data, and safety sheet in the link below. What you'll find interesting is that if you accidentally spill the substance, you have to call the hazmat team. Even for regular toothpaste, the warning label says to call poison control if swallowed. So what's the evidence that it can potentially cause changes in our faces? I'm going to mention just 2 of many. Researchers from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden found that rats that were given fluoride in their water had much slower rates of palatal expansion compared to controls. Another group from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, found that rat palate tissues treated with fluoride did not fuse properly. They hypothesized that fluoride was an enzyme inhibitor. Number 6 are endocrine disruptors such as xenoestrogens, glyphosate, plastics, or Teflon. There are many studies finding significant changes not only with bone, but soft tissues as well. Besides the many potential pathways for developmental damage, the most obvious ones are the xenoestrogens, or chemicals that mimic estrogen. It's no wonder that boys' and men's faces are becoming more feminized. Sperm counts and fertility rates are also dropping across the world. It's important to note that these xenoestrogens can also affect development of cartilage, which is probably why I was seeing so much nostril collapse and flimsy epiglottises before I left practicing medicine. I've noticed before that when I feel the epiglottis, it's extremely flimsy with no support, and I'm willing to bet that it's affecting other tissues and organ systems in the body as well. There are even more reports in the environmental and zoology research literature, especially using zebrafish. Even minute amounts of these substances have been found to alter estrogen and thyroid receptors, leading to craniofacial changes and infertility problems. Number 7. This last category can include anything such as heavy metals, gases, prescription medications such as aspirin, Tylenol, antidepressants, antibiotics, narcotics, and even birth control pills, as well as pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, glyphosate, and many others. DDT, which is banned in the US in 1972, is still being used throughout the world, especially in India. Common environmental pollutants such as ibuprofen and aluminum have been found to have teratogenic effects on fish. Judy Hoy, a wildlife conservationist, wrote in her book Changing Faces that she was noticing more and more deer with underdeveloped upper jaws to the point where their lower incisors could not make contact with the upper jaw's dental pad to be able to pull on leaves and grass. They just happened to be downstream and downwind of a large farm that uses traditional pesticides. Wow. So these are the 7 things that can cause your face to shrink. Besides all the other rising rates of medical conditions such as autoimmune conditions, neurologic problems, and other conditions, having a small airway is a major problem that doctors are not addressing at all. I guess the million-dollar question is, are all these factors combining to produce these increasing medical conditions as well as tongue-tied, smaller faces, and narrow airways? I can't say for sure, but I think we have to start thinking about it as a possibility. In my next video, I will reveal 7 steps that you can take to prevent your face from shrinking. I know all this may sound depressing, but I wanted to give you some good news. In the meantime, if you want to sleep much better and wake up with much more energy and better ability to focus and think straight, then get my free starter guide called the Energize Your Day Starter Guide. 5 simple steps to wake up refreshed and ready to go. I'm confident that some or even one of these steps in this short PDF will dramatically improve your sleep quality and perhaps even your quality of life. Get your free guide at energizeyourdaytoday.com. That's energizeyourdaytoday.com. This is Dr. Stephen Park, wishing that you breathe better so that you can sleep better and thrive again. Bye-bye.